suicide is the leading cause of death for Asian American, you don't want to just ignore the 3D world. Realize I had that problem of not knowing how to express.
We have a special guest today, award-winning activist.
Hello.
Jack.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yeah.
First time we met was Times Square.
Yeah.
It was 2 years ago?
Like 2 years ago, 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm asking about what it's like to be an Asian American.
Well, my parents are immigrants.
Okay.
So they're from Asia, so they still kind of have like a very traditional Asian like teachings and stuff.
Yeah.
Like you have to respect your elders and you know, like very clean.
Yeah.
And you know, the food is always like there's always a lot of dishes, right? It's tough. You know, my parents didn't speak English.
Okay.
So they grew up and had their aunt, like their sisters and their brothers. So I had a lot of aunts and uncles.
Yeah.
And they kind of just stuck with them and worked with other Asian American people who also didn't speak English in the factories and in the restaurants. So we grew up pretty poor. Like when I was a kid, I was, you know, hanging out and playing at factories. You know, that was like climbing the bars at the factory, like with other factory kids. And then it gets weird as you get older, and then like I didn't grow up in an Asian American neighborhood. I grew up in a predominantly Latin, Black, and Jewish neighborhood, right?
Okay.
Arabs. It was very diverse.
Yeah.
And quickly you start to realize, like, oh, I'm different. In certain neighborhoods, you kind of feel that right away. In my neighborhood, it was more primal, right? Like if people were more just like animalistic. It was kind of wild, right? So I felt that in terms of like violence, right? People would like see me and want to fight me, and then I'm just getting like, whoa, what's happening? Like, not even knowing like this is like a thing. And then eventually I had to adapt, and then I started learning how to fight, and that's why I'm so big now, because people are like, oh, I don't know, just a way to protect myself, you know, just to be big.
Yeah. And what's like a breaking point, or a point where you notice that, oh, I'm different?
Yeah, it was, you know, as soon as I entered middle school. Yeah. Like the first year, I was like 11. Yeah. My first day of school, I was on the monkey bars, climbing in a park. Yeah. And I was just climbing, and then I landed on the monkey bar, and this guy, he just smacks me in the face. And I was like, what? So shocked. I was like 11, you know, just like, what? I don't even know what's happening. And I looked at him like such a sensitive, like why are you hitting me? Like, did I do something to you? Did I hurt you? Smacks me again.
Without no context.
Without no context. So then he charges at me. And I'm like, whoa. And then I'm like, oh crap, I gotta fight him. Yeah. So I start fighting him, and thank God I win. I start fighting him. And then, you know, the whole park is like witnessing me, you know, us fighting. Right. And then that's kind of how I quickly realized, man, I have to fight to survive here. Yeah. Like my first day of school, like realizing like, hey, I'm different. I have to find ways to adapt or surround myself with like a big group of people, so that I'm not targeted, right? So then naturally I joined like the basketball team. Yeah. You know, I had my own little gang of guys that we would like do graffiti with, right? Yeah. So that was a lot of that.
It's interesting how society affect you to act in certain ways and way around it. Going back to what you were saying about how your parents interacted with you versus American family or friends while telling you love you and stuff like that. In Japanese society, we don't use the word love. Right. When I was doing meditation, I realized that I'm afraid of using the word love to my family. We just don't use love because it's heavy. Right. That's like what society tells me. Right. But like instead of going that, I asked myself why I don't use the word love. Right. By interacting with my American friends and family, they use love all the time. Yeah. All the time. But I don't.
I don't either. Yeah. I had to learn it.
And I'm afraid to use love. Yeah. I don't know why.
You tell her you love her?
Yeah. I learned a lot from her too.
Yeah.
That's a big thing in our relationship. Yeah. Like at first I was like, I feel like you don't love me because you don't say you love me.
Right.
And he's like, well, when we went back to Japan, I didn't hug my parents. I didn't say I love them. That's just where I'm from.
That's just how it is.
And I was like, oh.
It's very weird. We show love by service, right? Like they're always cooking and cleaning. Yeah. making sure you're ready to do whatever you need to do, and they're always thinking about you, like, oh, did you eat yet? Like, so that's how I think Asians show love.
We give love in different ways. We might be focusing on too much in service, but there's affirmation, right, and physical touch, and quality time. It's so uncomfortable to hug my parents.
Totally.
I've never done it.
I'm trying to do it more, but it's so weird.
But it's so simple because like you don't need anything. You just need to hug. It's very, very simple, and it's so simple to give love and spread love and receive love.
Especially your dad. The dad, I can't even think about hugging my dad. Like, I don't know how to touch him. Like I'm like tap like.
But that's something that I've been learning by spending time here. And fear comes from lack of confidence and opinion from others and excuses.
The Western society can do a better job of being of service to people, like their kids and their parents, because like there's a whole epidemic of parents who are lonely in this country, right? Like after they have the kids leave, they just leave their parents. Where like us Asians, we never leave our parents. We're always like, I gotta take care of my parents, even if you move in with your wife or your husband. Like some of them bring their parents with them. I don't know how much of that is impacted by like disease or like something like that, where people are like scared to touch. Like I'm like, was there like, you know, outbreaks back then where people are like, okay, don't touch, it's healthier if you don't touch, I need to survive. Because like most of Asia, especially China, they just came out of poverty in the last like 60 years, right? 70 years. And I'm guessing there was also disease or outbreaks back then that might have just influenced the culture, because they're always trying to survive, right? Especially if you just came out of poverty, like you're still in a survival mode, whereas the West, they're not in survival mode. Some of them are, most of them are, but they rather give people hugs and affection. And they're like, whatever, if you give me a cold, I'll be fine. You know, whereas in the East, like if you get a cold 30 years ago, you could die.
We have this.
You could die. Maybe that's just a theory, but I don't know. I feel like with people like you who are talking about these things and showing like, you know, affection, places like Japan and Asia can start to like see, oh, this is missing. And maybe we can make it more acceptable. Because suicide and depression rates are really high in certain parts of Asia, right?
Japan's really high.
It's really high. And also in the US too, with Asian Americans. Like suicide is the leading cause of death for Asian American adults from 21 to 45. Did you know that?
No.
But
you could see why, right? I mean, I think part of it is because of the racism and them just like having Eastern like ways of living in a Western society, but also because like, you know, in the US it always feels like we're a tier lower than, you know, white people, essentially. The racism, it's like trickles in everywhere. It's like not being accepted, not being promoted, or if you live in a dangerous neighborhood, or if you're trying to date, right? Especially for men are always trying to date. Women too, but I don't think Asian women have as much of a problem compared to Asian men in the dating pool. And then men, like they end up just like keeping to themselves, always in their computer, not really going outside. They don't have an outlet. They don't have a way to express themselves, or if they're angry, where do they go to? Like you're just back to your computer playing games, and then the more still you are with not moving, it's just the depression kind of adds up.
They can't express themselves, so they find a place that they feel powerful.
Accepted.
That's ended up in playing game, and they are really good
They're
at it.
Good,
Really, really good at it. But
and they have community. They talk to each other, and
How did you find your creative express or your place to express as who you are?
It was hard to learn because I kind of grew up with, I never saw my dad, you know, express except when he was angry, right? He was just, when he's angry, he's yelling, and I'm like, oh shit, like everyone's quiet, you know. And that was the only way I know how to express myself. But in the West, it's like, you can't yell like that. Like people they would not be your friends anymore. You get fired from your job. Like you can't yell. So I realized I had that problem of not knowing how to express, and it was a big problem because I couldn't even have a hard conversation with my business partner. And like they would do something and I would just like
keep it to yourself.
Yeah, keep it in, and then I would end up resenting him and hating them, and I was like so angry, but I couldn't say anything because I was scared to like just blow up on them, and they were like, oh my god, like and I'm a big guy, so they're
and when you blow up, like it's a lot. You keep it, hold it until like something pulls you and boom, and it's so scary for them because I don't know, I didn't know this was happening, and then they might be like, wow, that guy's crazy, he was yelling at me, and then they might forgive you, so then you just don't do anything, right? So I moved to California with that intention of let me go seek some help of like how to talk, right? Like how, because get therapy, at least like practice with the therapist of like how to talk, communicate your feeling,
like you're feeling this is what you're feeling, or I'm like, oh, am I okay? And just practice like once a week, just talk. And then in California, it's a little bit nicer in terms of sharing, because we have these like dinner conversations, and we ask everyone like how you're doing, and it's like not just how you're doing, but what's really going well and what's really going bad, and then you all just share, and then like when you start practicing how to share and talk and express, and you realize by doing that people are actually closer to you because you connect with them in a human way, then you start to see the positive in it, and you want to do it more, because we all just want to feel our hearts. Right? People don't feel their hearts living in this country. They're especially here in New York, they're always like in my mind trying to navigate like 15 different things. Like how does your heart help you there, right? But we all just want to feel love. That's why we do all the things we do. And sometimes just by hearing someone else's story or hearing what people are going through, you feel love. Right?
I definitely agree. So you had to outsource resources that kind of pull you out what you had inside, and be able to share your feeling with other people, that they are willing to listen.
And even if they're not willing to listen, I just go up until the point where they're like a little bit uncomfortable, but not like super uncomfortable. Where I tell them about myself. Because that's an invitation, right? It's like, I can share something very personal. They might feel because I did that now they're allowed to. Because it feels weird to be like, oh, let me tell you about my breakup, like or like someone cheated on me, and it's like I just met this person, but it's like, well, it's okay if you just met them and you just want to talk to them about it and make it more acceptable.
I kind of start like feeling less fear, opening up my feeling to other people. But when other people are listening, but they're unfeeling, I just stop talking to them, because when they're unfeeling, it feels like there's no dynamic and energy exchange anymore, and I know I'm making that person uncomfortable.
There's no connection, right? It's tough. Because the world would be much better if we're all just in tune with our feelings a little bit more, right? Just a little bit more. Then at least people can express themselves or share space. Because the 9-to-5 corporate environments are like the worst. You go into your job and you're like, hey, how are you? I'm good. Oh, how was the basketball game yesterday? Oh yeah, me and my boys went out for drinks, and it's like, dude, I don't want to hear any of this, right? But you have to tell them. You have to be like, oh yeah, we happy houred, and and it's like, oh, it was a great time. So and so drank like 3 shots, and it's like, none of this matters. And I just have to do it, right? But what if you're like, hey, how are you doing? He's like, well, I'm having trouble paying rent this week because, and then, or like, oh my God, like my baby walked for the first time. That's like, it's a little bit deeper. And then that allows permission. The thing is, if they don't feel super comfortable sharing this, because they don't know how, so it's our job to ask questions, right? Like, oh yeah, like tell me more about that. Oh yeah, can you share more? Can you explain more? Can you dive a little bit deeper? Or just repeat the last thing they said? Like, oh, you tell them you just said that. Say more about that. And there's also a lot of competitiveness within Asian Americans. Yeah. I don't know if that's Asia too. Like, what do you think? Is that how Asia is too? Like, they're very competitive?
Yeah, I think so. And also we compare to others a lot.
Yeah, because our parents always like, oh, they got an A, but you didn't. You know, it's such a destructive thing to do, right?
Luckily, my parents were more open and they allowed me to do whatever I want, and that's part of the reason that I'm here.
Right.
But when I was living in Japan, I still have to be around with people that are grow up like that.
Right.
So when I'm interacting with them, they try to compare, and they're projecting their feeling to me, and that makes me uncomfortable because I don't look at it like that. Like, I just don't see the world like this. And that's why, like, I didn't go to school. Elementary school, 6 years. I didn't go for 2 years. Mainly because I was sick, but also I was using that excuse and didn't go because I wasn't comfortable and I didn't see myself in a school as who I supposed to be. I just didn't feel like to be there.
That's good.
And I left.
Yeah, I mean, and ultimately your energy just pulls people away from you or closer to you, right? And then pulls places to you or places away from you. It's sad because some people that we were forced to grow up with that have become our friends are so different from us. And we can't change them. The only thing we could do is just be, and then if they're inspired by it, they'll ask questions, right? They're like, oh, I noticed you've been talking a little bit more about yourself. Like, how do you do that?
I want to ask you, you are in dark pitch room, spend there for days without food all the time?
Well, one thing I noticed was like a lot of like Eastern wisdom, like meditation and like chanting, and even psychedelics, like plant medicine. A lot of it comes from Asia. Right, but during the revolution, a lot of it has been, just wiped away, right? And I felt like a lot of the teachers that I was having in the U.S., mostly white people, right? And it's not like it's bad information. It's good information because they can explain it in a way that makes sense to me and a lot of people because they add science to it. They make it more, like it resonates more with people. And I was like, I want to go there and like go to the source of this information. So I met this guy named Montauk Chia, and I spent 6 weeks with him. And we just, last week was like a dark room retreat where it was pitch black, couldn't see anything for 6 days.
Can't imagine.
I couldn't even like see my food. So
you can't even see your food?
Nothing.
Oh, you can eat and drink water?
You can, they give you food. They give you food. It's in a tin thing so you can like touch it. And then you're like, okay, watermelon, like you just eat, or like nuts. Then you eat the nuts, and I'm so hungry the whole time.
So they give you minimum food?
Give you minimum food. Unlimited water. You have unlimited water.
For 6 days?
6 days.
Is there people around you?
There is. There's 40 people.
Okay, so you can talk to them?
You can't talk to them.
So people are there, but you can't talk?
You don't even know who it is.
Wow. And is there any like guidance?
There's a guidance there's Qigong in the morning from like 7 to 8. Then from 2 to 6 there's a meditation teaching. And then from 8 to 9 there's Qigong. So
you have a concept of what time it is. Okay, that's good at least.
But sometimes when you wake up like in the morning or night, you're like, am I still awake or am I still sleeping? You don't know. You have no idea. You're like, what time is it? I don't know.
What made you think going there?
I was so curious. Because I saw a few people talk about it on YouTube, and I was like, what is it gonna be like? And I don't think I'll ever have that. It's so hard to do that. No phone, right? I was like, I only have this time that I'm free right now. And I was like kind of paired it with like kind of the market has been kind of down, so I was like, let me just take this time for myself, not really do any work, and just do this, internal work. And I thought it was a good time to do it, so I just wanted to try it. And I was there anyway. And you couldn't go into the dark room without spending 4 weeks with him.
What would be like a main takeaway that you would say?
It's really, I think it's really healthy for you to like unplug like your eyes, right? I didn't realize how because as soon as I left the dark room, it was like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. or something like that, and I was in the middle of the jungle, so it's pitch black at night too. Yeah. But just the light from like the stars, and there's a bunch of trees around, so I couldn't really see that much. As soon as I got out, I was like, I had so much energy before I got out. I wanted to go to the gym. I wanted to do all this.
Yeah.
As soon as I got out, the little bit of light from like the sky and it was dark outside. It just like hit me so hard. I felt like I got punched in the eye, and it was like, oh my god! And I was wiped out. Like, so I didn't realize how much impact like your eyes kind of take, and like how it makes you so fatigued. But also, I was able to visualize things super clear. My past, like I would, you know how you remember something, but like you don't really remember. I remember like what I was wearing, what I was doing, how I smelled, and I was able to heal those parts of my past because it was so much more visual, because I couldn't use my eyes. So I was able to remember things a lot.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and then I would think about like things I wanted to do with my life, and I would plan it out, and I would be able to visualize worst case scenario, realistic scenario, best case scenario. And I was able to visualize it like to a T, right? And what happened is, as I was imagining different scenarios, even the worst case scenarios I didn't like, or the best case scenarios I didn't like, I just wouldn't do those, right? Yeah. I was playing things, and then I was able to like visualize my heart from the past, and then my heart in the future, and then my friends' hearts, because I was just able to visualize. Or maybe it wasn't these eyes, maybe it was this eye, right? Oh. And I was just thinking about their heart, and then I would feel love and send it to them. So all I was doing for hours, just like boom, heart, like.
Let me sign up.
Well, that was just what I was doing. Yeah. But the meditation was like, you take it's kind of crazy. You take like your internal. There's a lot of internal organ work, but it's like creating steam within your own body. So you see these like Tibetan monks that are like, you put like a jacket over them or a towel over them, and they start steaming.
Yeah.
We're learning how to steam. And it's like purifying your organs.
That sounds right. Even breath work for me, my first experience with somatic breath work, somatic release, was intense. It was like I was screaming, crying. I didn't know what I was doing, but like after the breath work, it felt so good. I had so much energy and like so much information, and like me doing that, I see a lot of people doing around me, and I feel like right now, hippie culture is almost coming back. That's what I feel right now.
Yeah. I think what happens is we go into like the hippie states of like forget the world a little bit. And like we're just like doing a lot of these meditation and like hippie dancing and like all this stuff, and which is all fine, but it's important to like bring it back into society and like how, or like use the skills you learned or the wisdom that you took away to benefit the community or whatever, right? Benefit yourself or benefit somebody else, right? So then you don't want to just ignore the 3D world.
Yes.
The 3D world is so important, right? So like don't forget to go to the gym, don't forget to take care of your health. And like people just forget about, you know, capitalism, like, hey, you know, you can't. It's a capitalistic society. You can't just disappear from it. Right? Even like the rallies that I was organizing, it came from a meditation. You know, it came from a prayer, like the one that you went to. I planned that in 3 days.
3 days?
3 days. I planned that Thursday night. I planned it Thursday night. It was crazy.
You made a history though, and you took all the billboards.
That, you know, you never believe it, but I literally made a text message on Saturday night, and I got a response Sunday morning to a person I've never met, and they responded, they got it. And I don't even know who the person is, but I was, cause I was sitting there Thursday night and I just asked God, I was like, God, let me know what I'm supposed to do. And I really prayed, you know, it doesn't matter who your God is, I'm not religious, I'm just asking for a sign, right? Boom, I saw a sign and I was like, oh my God, I had to do this. With that one and the one before that one, and I just keep on asking, and then it's like, you think I could plan that in 3 days? Like, there's no way. There's no way I didn't have help. Of course.
Subjectively.
of course I had help. Someone else was helping me.
And there are more than 100, if not 1,000 people are there.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool experience, huh?
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, I was shocked too. I was like, I don't know what the hell's going on. I was like, I don't know what's going on. Like those bikers that were there, like I don't even know who they were.
Yeah, they were so cool. They were blocking the streets.
It seemed so organized.
Yeah, it was. It was perfect.
Yeah,
it really was.
I mean, it was a lot of chaos, but like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
mean, for what it was, it seemed very like someone put that together, like a team of people.
Yeah.
Like
3 days.
Wow.
3 days.
Those drummers that came, no idea who they were. Like, if you think about that in 3 days, like I planned that Thursday night for Sunday. Like I didn't sleep at all. Like.
Wow.
I was, and then I had a photo shoot that morning.
For
modeling and that's why I chose that time at 3 p.m. because my photo shoot ended at 2:30.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was just super coincidence because you were there early.
Yeah.
You saw those Christian group that was there?
Yes.
They ended at 3 p.m.
And you didn't know?
I didn't know. Yeah. And they came, and when I got there, they were like, I was freaking out talking to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, right? And then she prayed for me.
Mm-hmm.
She just prayed for me. And then she was like, you know, we knew you were coming, and we came here to bless this land for you.
Damn.
I was like, I don't know what the hell's going on.
That's so.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and in the beginning, nobody was there, right? There was like 10 people there. I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, it was just like you guys, some of my volunteers, and I was like, man, this is it. Like 10 people.
And as we start and as you do speech, there are more people, and as we walk on the street, there are like more people coming up.
People.
It's interesting how law of assumption also comes into play, because when I got there, I'm like, oh, we're here pretty early. There's like no one here.
Right.
I assumed that there would be more people as well.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of other people also assumed, and with the collective energy, it just happened.
Yeah.
We attracted.
I was like, because like, you know how hard it is to get people to go to Times Square? So hard. If you're from New York, you don't go to Times Square. Especially during COVID and like there's Asian hate happening. Like no one wants to take the train.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, I planned this on Thursday. I don't think people are gonna come.
Yeah.
And then like 30 people showed up. I was like, shit.
Yeah.
Like, this is it, you know. Like whatever. I'll take these 30 people. we start marching.
I love when you said, and this is probably the biggest takeaway from this video, is that we do work outside, meditation, yoga, breath work, ayahuasca, plant medicine, anything, and we bring that benefit and what we learn to 3D world, the society, that could be lost when we don't take action and make effort. When we don't do that, the society would never heal, and it will stay the way it is now, and it might have a lot of fear and a lot of energy to do so, but you are doing it as doing a rally, you know, fight for Asian right.
I say there's like dark warriors and there's light warriors, right?
Yeah.
People are always fighting to harm people, right? All over the world we see it.
Yeah.
And then there's people who are fighting for good, right?
Yeah.
And you know, I fight for good or the light or whatever people call it.
Yeah.
But I don't tell people that I'm doing that.
Yeah.
I just plant the seed.
Yeah.
You know, in the things I'm trying to say or I'm trying to demonstrate, or it's not even me saying anything to them, it's just me bringing them there so they can all have a breath together.
Yeah.
Right? Or they can all have a release together, because there's so much pent up energy stuck in our bodies, and the people need ways to release it.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't tell people like, hey, I'm gonna bring you here and like release your, you know, stuck energy.
Yeah.
I'm just like, hey, this is an event for this.
Yeah.
And we could collectively chant, which is what we're doing at the rally, and it's like so releasing, because you haven't expressed yourself like that in years, probably.
And they don't even know they had that energy.
They don't even know. They
do, and then release and they become someone new.
They're light.
Yeah.
They feel less heavy.
Yeah.
Right? So that was my whole intention.
Yeah.
So that what you're saying is like we use the things we learned. If I set the intention like this is gonna be a meditative journey, like no one's gonna show up. Right?
Yeah.
It's like bringing it back into our world, and then like planting ways to do it. Like, remember when we went to that building, we could have charged that building, but I had everybody sit down and make peaceful protests, right?
Yeah,
like sitting down like that at an energy that was so tense, it's like transformative, right?
Yeah.
It's just changed the whole landscape.
Yeah.
So that's what you're doing right now, and that's what I'm trying to do, right?
Yeah. Wow. This is a great video.
Yeah. So I hope so.
Thank you for coming.
I'm so happy to see you, bro.
Yeah, I'm so happy to see you too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you guys are doing great.
Do you have anything to promote or like?
Follow him. Follow Kayla. Make sure they're great. They're doing the good work.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You have Instagram, right?
Yeah, I have Instagram. I want to start my YouTube channel so I could get some tips from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta do it.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate it. Thank you for coming today and talking such a wisdom.
Yeah, I'm trying. I hope I hope you do even better than you're doing.
All right. See you in next video. Bye bye. I love you, Jack.
I love you, bro.
皆さんにお知らせです。今、生きた英語が学べるリア充英会話のゼロ規制を募集しております。義務教育で習った英語の知識を持って3ヶ月で英語ペラペラになるまでナビゲートします。スパルタ英会話さんの協力のもと、ワンワンのレッスン、グループレッスン、その他にも毎月僕とのね、コーチングで本来あるべき姿を引き出します。そして、英語を喋る恐怖だったり、英語を喋れるようになってから広がる世界に一緒にね、羽ばたければと思います。概要欄に LINE のリンク貼ってあるので、そちらの方から友達追加よろしくお願いします。英語ペラペラになる準備ができてる人集合。そしてね、今この話を聞いてちょっとでも心がね温かくなった人待ってます。Peace out。